You may not know it yet, but your life is about to change. Well, we're back again with the interview, and I have our dear friend back with us, Rabbi Itzhak Levy. Rabbi, good to have you back. And in this show, we're promising the people that their lives will be changed through what they're hearing. You had a story that you were just about to tell before I cut you off for the first episode.
Yeah.
Let's start off with that.
Okay. Yeah. Last week when we talked about how can we be influenced to other people in a positive way, and you asked me who and how many people were left an impression in my life, and I was boasting about my dad because my father was not a man of many words. He was somewhat reserved in his word, but when he spoke with a presence, with an influence, and his faith is like nothing I've ever seen. So last week we spoke about we were very poor, we had no money, and the miracle that took place and the faith of my father, amazing. So now I want to share with you about many years later. My parents are supposed to meet with the Reagans for a big gala. And my father had the reputation of a prophet of God. And he met with other presidents before Reagan. And so Reagan heard about him, and so they were going to have a big banquet and CIA and all the detail there. But what happened was exactly 7 days before that, my parents were side hit by a lady who ran a light and left them both, well, for dead in the beginning. My mom was in a coma for, I think, 30 days in a coma. And every day I would go there, the doctor would say that I would have to sign to get her off the, and I said, no, she will live. So they were left with broken necks and broken body parts. So when they came from Israel, they told me over the phone, we're invited by the Reagans, we're going to come there, we're going to stay with you, like they always do. And I said, good. Now remember, Sandy is going to cook for you all, so don't take any invitations from her, because when they came, everybody wants a piece of my parents. So my father said, okay. So Sandy cooks all day, we pick him up from the airport, everything is set, phone rings. One of their close friends, you must come. So they went, and that's when it happened. They were hit. And so we get a phone call, and I was disturbed. And when the phone call, I said, this is for me, and it's bad news. Sandy says, what are you, all of a sudden a prophet? Why do you think it's some bad news? I mean, I said, I don't know. Hello? It's for you. It's from the hospital. It was Parkland Hospital. And so I used to get some crank calls with some unfunny jokes. So she says, we got your parents here. They were both hit very hard. And would you please come? And I said, listen, if this is supposed to be funny, it's not. I hung up. That was the head RN from the ICU department. She calls again. She said, this is no crank call. Is your father's name Aaron? Yes. And so she knew I shouldn't drive. So she calls her brother. He comes and drives me over there. Parkland, if you've ever been there, that's where the Kennedys went. You know, these are like a great house, but it's always full. So I asked the desk, I said, I'm here for Aaron Levy. They were hit. Yeah, down the hall, you'll see him over there. And there's no room in the rooms. They're all packed. So they put now all the newcomers in the hallway, unattended. So I walk really fast. I got to find my father. And I go back and I said, listen, this is not a joke. I'm looking for my father, Aaron Levy. And she said, yeah, he's on the hall. I said, I've been down, put down. Yeah, come. She takes me. And here's this man with a head this big. Half of his ear missing. He was in a coma. And she said, I said, at first, it's not my dad. And she says, we understand he's in a coma and all this, but he keeps repeating the same thing. Now, growing up, I always knew my father was close to God, and he talks about God and his faith in the concentration camp, on and on. But I have never seen it with my own eyes. And she says, he keeps saying something about Shua, Shua. What language is Shua? And I put my ear, oh, here's Shua. So, here's the thing. He's in a coma, right? He can put the front when he's sober and he's not sober, but coherent. But when you're in a coma, it's what's inside is going to come out. And he was calling to his master. So yeah, this is the indelible mark he left on my life.
That has really impacted you, even to this day. Just recalling it.
Yeah.
So, you are impacting others. I know that we were on camera, but you and I talk frequently off camera.
Yes.
And, what you present yourself on camera is exactly the same way you are off camera. I hope I'm the same way as well. Our lives are really about God. That's it. They're about God. Oh, yeah, we have the other stuff. We have work, we have family, but our number one purpose is to serve God with all of our hearts, soul, mind, and spirit. And I see that in your life, and you've been a great inspiration for me and so many others. So, your father has affected you in a drastic way. How was living in Israel? Did that affect you?
Very much, because we were persecuted. My parents were put in prison. It cost me a lot of money to get them out with some of the strongest, most powerful lawyers, because it's against the law to do what they call missionary work. My father, so the accusation from the district attorney of Israel was he converts Jews to Christianity. Are you kidding me? Are we talking about the same person? It's just the opposite. Just the opposite. What we teach, my father, what I taught, is Yeshua is telling us, when you come to the crossroads, ask for the old road. Ask for the old path. All this new stuff is man-made. Ask for those things. God did not make a covenant with St. Jerome or with the cardinals or the popes. He made covenant not even with David or Moses. He made a patriarchal covenant. Abraham, Itzhak, and Yaakov. And that's where Judaism has been birthed. When all the nations of the world refused the Torah, Israel said, s01e04, we will do. I don't even want to know what. You tell me, I'll do it, and then I'll ask the questions. And that's why s01e comes first. We will do. So we should be a society of doers. Yeshua did not just preach. He died for us. And then he came and told us, I go to prepare a place for you.
What condition do you see the world in today? And how do you see believers in the God of Israel affected, whether they're Jews or Gentiles? You see us making an impact? And do we need to make an impact? What condition is the world in?
The world is reverting back to the chaotic state of Bereshit, of Genesis. When the Spirit of the Lord moved upon the face of the earth, and it was chaotic. There was no land mass. It was only water, darkness in the face of the deep. And then God began he turned the light on in his workplace, and he began to get busy in the workshop. And he let there be light, and so forth. But Yeshua told us, you remember how it was? Well, I'm telling you, just before the flood, it was the days of Noah, when I had to shut it down. I had to turn the lights off, bring the water back, as I found in the beginning, and we have a brand new creation through Noah. So we had one through Adam, one through Noah, and one through Yeshua. And that's the one that counts, because he was in the beginning and he's going to be in the end. So the best way we can impact people is don't put so much weight on your knowledge of the Bible. Genesis, and you quote Revelation and Corinthians. That may be impressive for the moment, But in the long run, people are going to what? People want to see a sermon. They've already heard it all. Now show me a sermon.
By the way you live.
By the way you live. And so the greatest compliments I've received from Jews, Christians, Catholics, Muslims. I got to tell you a quick story about the Muslims. And we lived in Ariel, and we were surrounded by 7 Arab villages. Every cop was hated to death by the Arabs because they didn't care. They gave you a ticket. You blinked, ticket. You smiled. I'm just, of course, exaggerating. I never gave them a ticket. Never. I would stop them when they broke the law, and they would always look at me with
You were a policeman in
for
Israel.
5 years, yes.
Okay.
And so they would look at me, and you could see he wants to murder me with his eyes. And I would smile, and I said, "You know why I stopped you?" "No, because I'm an Arab." No. You ran a red light, and you know your kids play for the village. They could be in the. You would kill your own son. So, stop sign is for good for you, for us. And all of a sudden, the hate goes away. I said, "Look, I'm not going to give you a ticket. That's not going to change it. But you know what I'm saying?" Okay. We lived on a hill, and the villages were around us. I'm telling you the truth. There was not a day that these people would not drive because my balcony was seen. They was always honking, waving at me, and they never broke the law again. They would come to a full stop, honk, and wave. And so the Mukhtar, the mayor of that village, he could always come to my house because I thought, "You're invited." I told the guard he's my friend. Anytime he wants to come, you let him in. "You're crazy, we'll murder you." I'll take the chance. So he would come to our home, eat, and all this stuff. One day he said, "You must come to my village." I said, "Oh, you're trying to get rid of me, huh?" He said, "I promise you with my life." I said, "I'll take a chance." So here I'm driving my truck. He's next to me, and we have yellow tags, and they have blue. And we would go, and all of a sudden, all the Arab kids would come with big rocks, and they're ready, and he would roll the window down, and he would curse them in Arabic, and they drop the rock, and they're guarding me all the way to his house. They don't have furniture, so they sit on the floor, but here comes all his sisters with big platters full of food, handmade, the best food. Such an honor. If they like you, like nobody in the world. But why? Because they saw me for what I am. I was real. My speech, my life, same. That's the best impact you can leave on someone.
I agree. You know, one of the things you just sparked in my thinking is that when people come to understand that the Torah has not been done away with, God's instruction manual is still relevant today as it was when it was first written and quoted, when it was first given. Many, not all, many, I think, come to a point of going, "Wow, I know something you don't know," and it forms a bit of pride. At least it did. And but what I've found is over the years, as that mellows, not that you water it down, but as that mellows and becomes part of you, not just in your head, but in your heart, in your life, then you begin to have more mercy on things and understand that we're all on a journey. There's so much we all have to learn. And it's through that, then, assimilating the Torah, the lifestyle of Yeshua, Jesus, that we begin to affect others. You said it earlier, it's not just knowledge, it's not just knowing where to find it in Genesis, but it's incorporating that into the lifestyle. And I think that is how we're going to not only change ourselves, but change the world. Rabbi, I think you would agree with this. I know you would agree with this. If we only take on more knowledge, just spout this out like we're some new philosopher, knowing the truth, knowing all this information in the Scripture, but that we haven't allowed that to take the time to work into our lives, we probably will never affect anyone positively.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, you tell me, but to me it just takes time and prayer for that to be incorporated in. What else could a person do? It's not just about knowledge.
Oh, for sure not. The Torah, the Bible tells us that we're going to be judged by our faith. That's not what it says. We're going to be judged by the knowledge we have of Torah.
Pretty sure I know where you're going with this.
We're going to be judged by our works. Our works.
Yeah.
So if you want to know how much a certain thing weighs, you're not going to use a tape measure. You're going to use scales. If you want to see how much something, the distance between something, you're not going to use a scale. You're going to use a tape measure. So there is a measuring tool for everything. And the measuring tool for our faith is our works.
Yes. If people have a problem with that term works and thinking that that flies in the face of grace, then just exchange it for another synonymous term like action. We were created for action.
Yeah. But that is kind of like creating to the politically correct stuff. We need to get away from that. We need to be yes, yes, and no, no. And we don't have to cater to every person. Well, that offends me. Well, I'm sorry. If he did not offend God when he gave it, why should I worry about offending anybody else?
I totally agree. I think some people have the understanding theologically that works is a bad thing. But it tells us all through Scripture that, they will know you by your
Works.
Yeah, it's the way you live, your actions, the way you live this thing out.
And see, grace is a bad interpretation of its original word. What is the word in Hebrew?
Chesed.
Chassid. Chassid is orthodoxy.
Yes.
Chassid is doing. See, what is the greatest sacrifice in the Torah? Is obedience. That is the greatest. Lord, I killed 10,000 sheep for you because I love you. No. Leave them. Let them live. You just do what I just done. So chassid,
Right.
Chassid comes from the word chesed. Chesed is not as it given. Well, it's grace. Chesed means obedience. Live by obedience. So we're so busy trying to cater to people and not to God. We need to go back to the old road, the old path. Yes, yes, no, no. And if people watch your life, you'll build credibility with them. You'll be trustworthy. I'm telling you, I think if Yeshua tarries and I die, on my tombstone they will write, a man who kept his word. I was a man of my word. If I'm not known for anything else, if I tell you, I'll be there unless I'm dead. But my word is better than going to a lawyer and a judge to write down in some kind of affidavit. That's how we should be.
I agree. We have to be people of our word. We have to be people of action. We have to be people that are trustworthy. And that's when we resemble God, and that's when we'll make a difference in His life. Remember, that's what this show is about. How can we affect people's lives and be changed? That's the promise in every episode. Watch the show, you'll be changed. So what would that change be you think you might be able to offer from what God has been teaching you throughout this life? Would it be keeping your word? What would that change be?
Well, for me, yes. But for others, it's if you're credible, you put your foot in the door. Now you have access to the person. Whereas, it's that phony guy again, or that guy who never keeps his word, or that guy. Once you build the credibility report, you know the person, they know you. Anytime you want to talk, hey, how about a cup of coffee? Sure. And then this is the open door that you can go and influence them. I'm telling you. I just came back from Indiana. A man smoked, he's, 50, smoked since he was 10 years of age. 2.5, 3 packs a day. Can you imagine the price? His teeth are going. And I said, do you remember the story of the strange fire with the sons of Aaron, the priests of Israel? What happened to them when they brought the strange fire? Oh, God says, hey, leave those, they're mine. They're a little bit off. No. When you do wrong, they were zapped. Nothing was consumed. Even their clothes did not smell stench. But they were cooked from the inside. I said, God gave us oxygen to breathe. When you go to the hospital, they just bring some cigarettes. This man needs to breathe. Let's pipe some smoke into his. They put oxygen. God gave us. I don't want your oxygen, God. I go back to the same stuff. Why did Nimrod? Okay, I got to tell you this quickly. Noah is going to build a boat. Yeah, we don't know what a boat is. Noah, what are you doing? It's going to flood. What's flood?
You know he had welders on that arc welders.
So listen to this. This is so funny. You know, sometimes you like to do funny shows. This is funny to me. Noah is not only going to build a boat far away from water, but he's going to build it on the top of a mountain. What are you doing? A boat for what? It's going to rain. We're on top of the mountain. There's no way the water's going to come. So here is the irony of things.
Do you think he had a for sale sign out in front of his house?
Without a doubt. It took him 100 years. I think it's more like 70 years plus 30 years of him preaching about the flood. That's my analogy.
Peter, right? First Peter? Or... Yeah.
But he had to compensate his sons and his daughter-in-laws for working with him on that boat. So without a doubt, after the flood, he put a for sale sign on the boat, and some billionaire came. He says, no, the problem is, how do I get to the water? You're going to have to wait until the next flood. But Noah, I'm sure, said, the next flood is going to be fire, not water. So, but the next irony is, of course, Nimrod. He was so obnoxious and so against God that he did not even want to use, use God's stones to build the pyramid. He says, I'll build my own stones. The scripture tells us he made his own stones. And not only that, he could have built this because it's a tower, right? Where would you put, if you want to put a cell phone tower, would you put it at the very lowest or at the top of the mountain? He wants to build a tower, but he's not doing it on the mountain. He puts it in the valley so as to tell God, I don't need your mountain. I'm building my own mountain. And God says, very good. Where are going to get the materials from? Because, but those bricks, you're using my material, my water.
Considered to be the first world leader. Nimrod is considered the
first king. He was the first king of the world. And he tried to keep all the people in his church, if you will, by having the steeple there. That was the first steeple.
You think that's where the first time the phrase came out, can you hear me now?
Yeah, well, God has been asking us this now for nearly 6,000 years.
Okay.
Can you hear me now? Come back. Tshuva, and respond.
What do you see the trends being in these last few minutes? The trends being in congregations. The trends being in believers within America. What are the trends? Positive, negative?
Yeah, of course, most of your speakers, they're probably thinking what from the mainstream, but I'm not from the mainstream, and I just speak my heart because you let me. My heart is this. One of the greatest sayings in Christianity is, we're going to go to a retreat. Excuse me? You believe in God and you're going to go retreat? See, I'm from the Israeli army. We don't retreat. We go forward. We never run back. We run forward. What is retreat? We're in the army of God. Okay, number one, retreat.
So I'm never going to use that phrase in front of you again.
Well, you can get away with it because you're from this culture, but I can't. Both because I belong to the army of God and because of...
Yes. So we're learning. So when you're around Rabbi Itzhak, you never say retreat.
Yeah, so that is a no-no for me. We do not retreat. Number two,
going to an advance this weekend.
We're gonna win souls. That's always a forward. The next thing is our synagogue is very small, and the reason is we're kind of like a revolving door. People want to come and they have itchy ears, as the scripture tells us. They will not endure sound doctrine. You know what I teach? Is sound doctrine. I bring everything from the patriarch, from David, from Moses. Rabbi, you're still a Jew, yeah? No. We're in a bread. After Jesus died, we have a new law. Excuse me? Does God know about that law? Does God know that all that He made is no good? It doesn't work. Man came and we have a brand. Well, who's leading it? The Apostle Paul. Well, I didn't know that Paul was in the mix. I thought he spoke to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Where does Paul come from?
You think a rabbi could change and annul God's words. Now, you think about that from a Jewish perspective, that's crazy.
Let me tell
It
you,
could never happen.
I wrote this in the book, May the Real Paul Come Forth. But here's the thing. Just think on the simplistic of this thing, and that is, could Paul have retained his title as a rabbi if he changed one jot?
No.
That's my point.
Or Yeshua.
Well,
Yeshua couldn't have either.
right, but
He would have been considered a false prophet and stoned.
But every time you talk to a Christian, it's always, but Paul's. I said, and the Lord said, yeah, but Paul's. So they're putting Paul, they esteem him above God.
Above Yeshua, above the writings of Torah. Paul is the ultimate. And that is crazy thinking in Jewish thinking. That could not be. Impossible.
Without a doubt, if Paul was listening to their show and he saw what, he says, I wrote these letters in innocence. Imagine all your emails that you sent me. I'm going to canonize it and I'm going to put them in the Bible. And I'm going to call it the New Testament.
The new.
The new.
Yeah, the new. There's so much we could go into regarding this, but that is, you hit on one of the biggest keys, is that we have raised the writings of Rabbi Shaul, of the Apostle Paul, above the sayings, the Torah itself, and in many ways, the way he interprets things, I would even say we've raised him above it.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
And Jesus could not have been Messiah if he disagreed with the text of God.
Very quickly, when Yeshua was in the wilderness and Satan came against him,
What did he quote?
he quoted the Torah.
I thought he quoted Paul.
Well, maybe he did. I wasn't there, so
Rabbi, it's so good to
It's a
see you
pleasure.
again, my dear friend.
pleasure.
It's
It's always fun.
a breath of fresh air for me. I hope that you realize that there isn't anything you can't do in the power of God. God will make all the difference in your life, and your destiny in him is far greater than you could ever imagine. Pray that you have a great week. Thanks so much for watching the interview. And we thank our guest, our dear friend, Rabbi Itzhak Levy, and we'll see you again next week. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.